Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, a co-production of EWTN Radio and SpiritualDirection.com, where we provide you with a spiritual haven of rest and explore the riches of the wisdom of the saints and the path to union with God.
This is Dan and Stephanie Burke. Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, your radio haven of rest,
your hermitage of the heart,
your monastery of the mind, where we lift our hearts and minds to heaven to draw upon the wisdom of the saints to help us understand and be encouraged and inspired regarding how do we navigate the tumult of this life. And boy, is it tumultuous. Our culture, inside the church, outside the church, and the world. I think there's a lot of us who never talk apocalyptically. You know, if you know history, you study church history, you see all the undulations and you sort of rationally go, well, it's been worse. And we're in one of those times, actually, where I think everyone is even if you're a little less inclined to be apocalyptic about how you think about things. We're looking at Matthew 24 and looking at the predictions of Jesus in the last days and what's going to be happening. And there are a lot of beautiful lights in the world that help us to navigate these times. And Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers is one of those. And Stephanie, you're going to introduce them. Would you do that, please?
Well, we have two guests
today. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have two guests. One I like a lot. The other one's just okay. Deacon Harold I like a lot. No, our pastor, Father Andrew Jones, who I will say is an extraordinary pastor. We love him to death. So he's with us today, and he is pastor of City of St. Jude in Montgomery, Alabama. A historic best parish ever. It's a fascinating parish. It's a historic Black parish. It's known for Martin Luther King, where he stopped on the way on the famous march.
His children were born in our hospital.
Yeah.
We did the Freedom Riders, and
it's an amazing history.
And it's an exquisite church.
Yeah, it is one of the more beautiful ones.
It needs some love.
Well, he's working on it.
Yeah, it needs a little more love, but it's coming.
But I'll accept some love from other people if they want to send some.
That's why I said it. If you have a
send some green love so they can, so we can keep fixing the place up.
You have heart for a beautiful historical church. Stop by and give him some love. Okay, so we want to welcome Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Sivers is an internationally renowned speaker, author, and preacher. He has appeared as a guest on numerous international Catholic radio and television programs and is the host or co-host of several popular series on the Eternal Word television network. He is the author of 5 books, including Behold the Man, A Catholic Vision of Male Spirituality, Father Augustus Tolton, the slave who became the first African-American priest, and the acclaimed new book, Our Life of Service, the Handbook for Catholic Deacons, and a brand new book.
Yeah, so it's 6 books.
It's 6 books.
Yeah.
So, and a brand new book called Building a Civilization of Love, a Catholic Response to Racism. So thank you, Deacon Harold and Father Jones, for being with us today.
Yeah. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great Wonderful. To have you with us. So let's jump into your work, Behold the Man, a Catholic Vision of Male Spirituality. What prompted you to do all the hard work that is writing a book on this topic?
So a couple of things, a little background. First, I was born in Barbados in the West Indies. And my mother was a Methodist. My father had no faith background at all whatsoever. So my mother converted when she was a teenager to Catholicism. And so I'm the oldest child of their marriage. So I'm actually the first baptized Catholic in the history of our family, because my mom didn't have to be rebaptized when she came into the church. Right. So when we came to the United States, our father didn't come with us. My dad didn't come. Just me and my mother, my brother, and my grandma. And so we went to the state of New Jersey, and my mom made sure that we went to church. And she worked. She was a cardiac care nurse. She worked overtime, graveyard shifts to make sure that we can have a Catholic education. That was so important to her.
God bless her.
And I was saying last night at the talk that she went to work with holes in her shoes and runs in her stockings because we needed stuff.
Wow.
And when my father joined us, we wish that he hadn't, basically. He basically loved 3 things: womenizing, alcohol, and cigarettes. And he has 15 other children with other women.
Wow.
Besides the 4 of us with my mom. And he drank. And if you ever come from a household where alcohol is an issue, I didn't have to tell you about the hurtful and painful, embarrassing moments that come from living in a house like that, where I often wish to God I lived at my friend's house rather than have to go home to
I
my
understand.
own house.
Yeah, I had my stepdad was an alcoholic, fired a gun in our home, beat my
Ooh,
mother,
yeah.
destroyed our home end to end. So that's not the kind of manhood we want. That's not what we're
Yeah,
looking for.
exactly.
But in conjunction with your conversion and kind of what the Lord has done with you, it forces you, when you don't have that good male figure, you got to figure everything out on your own.
Yeah. So my mom made sure during the separation, divorce, that there were other men in my life that were godly examples, because she knew if that didn't happen, then what happened in my neighborhood that I grew up in the Week Wake section, Newark, New Jersey, you went to the gangs, because these guys are looking for father figures.
Yeah.
They don't have the fathers at home, so they go to the gangs.
Right.
So my mom makes sure I was in good gangs like Boy Scouts and altar servers and,
Smart.
and stuff like that.
Smart.
So my scoutmaster was a huge influence. Teachers at my school, the monk, I went to a Benedictine high school, St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. The monks, my wrestling coach. I mean, these were men that really, I mean, they pushed me, they challenged me, they believed in me often when I didn't believe in myself, you know, and I became the first person in my family to go to college.
Yeah, me too.
And I felt vocation to Benedictine life. So I went to college for 4 years, worked for a year, and then joined a monastery as a Benedictine, and which I enjoyed that very much. And then my mom got sick and almost died. So my sister was still in high school. So I left to take care of my mom and my sister. And then when I was out of monastery, I went to a wedding and met my wife. So hello. And she's from Oregon.
Yeah.
That's how I got out there, because, you know, if you're from the East Coast, as far as we're concerned, Philadelphia is the West Coast.
Right.
You don't go past Philly.
Yeah.
But so that started life out there. And what ended things with my dad, even after the divorce, when I joined the Benedictines, I went to his apartment out of respect, because he's still my father, to tell him what I thought I'd be doing for the rest of my life. And our conversation went something like, "You're going to do what? You're the first person in our family ever go to college." And he's bragging, "You went to Notre Dame. And now you're going to waste your life living with a bunch of men? What's wrong with you? What am I supposed to tell my friends?" Well,
painful.
I told him what he can tell his friends. And then I didn't speak to him for 18 years.
Then you had to go to confession.
No, I literally consider him dead to me from that point forward. I didn't talk to him for 18 years.
Wow.
So, which I had no problem with that. If he would have died during that time, I would have not just completely ignored it. So I joined a monastery. I left the monastery. I'm moving out west. And my mom says to me before I moved, she goes, "The only thing I want you to do, son, when you leave this house is to pray for your father." And I said, "No." And my mom's like, she was like 4'10" or something like that, you know.
Pack a punch. Yeah.
And she looked at me, she goes, "I don't think you heard me, son." I said, "The only thing I want you to do when you leave this house is to pray for your father." I'm like, "Oh, whatever." I'm like, okay, yeah. So I just say prayers, just throw his name at the end, just, you know, just because I told my mom I would. And I even got to the point when we started having kids and they asked where their grandfather was. I told my kids to their face that he was dead. You know, that's how much I hate him. I mean, I say it now, kind of embarrassing, but I hated my father.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's basically what was. In fact, for the wedding, my sister got married at City of St. Jude.
Yeah, how crazy is
In
that?
1995. So I was there before. I walked my sister down the aisle because my father wasn't there. So I walked her down the aisle.
Just for context, Deacon's here to give talks on, you know, a Catholic, the Building a Civilization of Love, his new book, and on racism at this historic parish. And that's crazy that that connection.
Yeah, it's a crazy connection because, you know, we started last year with Bishop Joseph Perry, who's the auxiliary bishop of Chicago, every year for November, which is Black Catholic History Month, which I'll be honest, I didn't know that until I came to City of St. Jude. It's, you know, we don't do a good job.
Well, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
so November is Black Catholic History Month in the United States. And so we started this sort of lecture series, right? And we started with Bishop Perry came last year and talked about Father Tolton. So we had Deacon Harold this year and, you know, came into the church and everything and didn't say anything until his sister came because she lives in the area.
Oh,
she teaches. She teaches in the area.
Oh, fantastic!
And she said, "I got married in this church, and you walked me down the aisle."
Yeah. And I remember, I didn't remember it was that church. I mean, this was before diaconate, before any. I only been married a year actually. Yeah. You know, so it was long before. Because I usually remember when I go back to a place, but this was before everything. So
crazy coincidence.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
So let's turn a corner, and I'd like to your story, of course, is powerful, and I can resonate with a lot of the pain and the suffering, and then having to rebuild your own vision of what it means to be a father. I had less help than you did on the backside. My biological father was helpful because he was a stable provider, but his dad was an alcoholic and a philanderer as well. So it's crazy what so many of us grew up with, where we have to really figure it out, on our own. Thank God you had your mom to point you to all those, get you in the right Catholic context and coaches. But I'd like maybe you two to take a shot at, we have a few minutes before the break, diagnose, if you would, or maybe give me the top 3 ailments, or however you want to say it, of current masculinity that really needs to be addressed by the church and by the work that you've written.
Just real quick before we go to that,
yeah,
just because I'm cognizant of people like on the edge of their seat now.
Oh,
your father did get reconciled. Just to cap that story off.
Okay.
So
it didn't end with him hating his
father.
father.
So the 17th year of our estrangement was my first series on EWTN, named after the book that I wrote, Behold the Man. I've written the book, and then EWTN wanted me to do a series, or actually the other way around. This series, then I wrote the book. But so it started airing internationally. Someone saw that, called my father, said, "Isn't that your son?" And so he looked on the channel. He saw it was me.
Yeah.
And he wanted to watch the next week. And instead of watching me, he got the time right. He's watching Mother Angelica. So he didn't know how it worked. He thought, okay, this lady's going to come on, and my son's going to, and
So he kept listening.
and he kept listening. So later we'd ask, why'd you keep watching? Even though I didn't, he goes, she just made so much sense.
Yeah, she kept.
There's a man who never went to church.
Angelica
The only time I heard him talk about God was as a curse.
Yeah.
And now he's watching Mother, and he watched for a year and then called me out of the blue, and that began our reconciliation. He came to Oregon. He met my wife and kids for the first time. He reconciled with my mom.
Praise the Lord.
And when he died in 2016, I was at his bedside praying to Chaplain of Divine Mercy.
Wow.
And my favorite part of that story that you said, the monastery that he's so mad that you join, a priest from that monastery was the one who anointed him.
Yep, before he died.
God,
yeah.
wow.
God be praised.
So beautiful.
Wow.
So we are going to go to the break, but just to remind you to kind of set your mind when we get back from the break, I'd like to hear from both of you, because you hear it as a priest in confession, you hear it in terms of people that you counsel, you see it in the culture. You're the youngest guy in the room as well, but also from you, Deacon. I'd like to hear you both talk to what are the things that ail young men and male spirituality in our time, and then what are the remedies. So we'll do that when we get back.
The beautiful fact that no suffering is wasted, that all suffering has a purpose, and to wrestle with the idea, which is that everything that happens in our lives is either willed or permitted by God. Okay, God, why would you permit these things? I know that you're a good father and you're a loving father. So there's something there. So I have to bridge this gap between your permission of my suffering to your love for me as a father. And Uniformity with God's Will, the book by St. Alphonsus Liguori, bridges that gap. And he explains, as only he can, because he's such a hard hitter, the reality that these are all moments of growth, of virtue, of, hey, your legs are weak. You're like a newborn deer. You can't stand on your own. We need to get you to stand on your own. Those sorts of things. Even desolation, the day-to-day kind of the ebbs and flows of the spiritual life. Those things are all permitted for a greater good, whatever that might be.
Check out the brand new updated version of Uniformity with God's Will, titled Finding Peace in the Storm, with commentary by Dan Burke.
This is Dan and Stephanie Burke. Welcome back to Divine Intimacy Radio. Two special guests today, our own pastor, one of the best homilists, by the way, in the known universe. So I think we're going to get a sign on the front of the parish that says, greatest homilist ever, something, and put it up there.
Got to put an asterisk in English.
In English. Right. And Deacon Harold can preach like crazy too. Right. Boy, if you've never heard him speak. And by the way, just for lineup's sake, you don't want to put me after lunch. I'm a little sleepy. But but Deacon Harold can wake anybody up at any time with his energy. He and I did a men's conference a while back. But we're talking about Behold the Man, the Catholic vision of male spirituality. For the break, I asked both Deacon Harold and Father Jones to diagnose a little bit about the issues with male spirituality in our time, and what are the answers?
Yeah. So, in Genesis chapter 2, when the Lord puts the man in the garden, he says he puts him there to till and to keep it. And those words are abad and shamar in Hebrew, which means abad means a work that's in the form of service, and shamar means to protect and defend. So he's giving him his mission, his purpose, his reason for existing: serve, protect, defend everything that I'm entrusting to you. And we've lost that sense. So we have men who basically spiritual lethargy. Their faith is just kind of secondary, even tertiary in their life, if it means anything to them at all. We've lost this sense of to serve, protect, defend. The prayer life, I think, it suffers for a lot of men. A lot of men aren't leading their families. They aren't being the priests in their families, leading their families to heaven by being the chief prayer in the family, and definitely not praying with their spouses. That's a whole nother thing. And then I think the sexual temptations, pornography. And I haven't worked in law enforcement and seeing human trafficking up close, and seeing this multi-billion-dollar industry being fueled by pornography. So there's definitely some challenge. And then this culture we're feminized. It's a feminization of men, and kind of women having to assume those masculine roles in the family. And it doesn't help that you have individuals and institutions that are trying to further that, the disintegration of the nuclear family, cisgender privilege, all this garbage language is being used now to basically describe the destruction of the nuclear family. And so what we have to do as men is recover ourselves, get back to a proper sense of who we are. And my whole thing is, you have strong men, you have strong families, strong church, we take back the culture.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, from work with younger guys. I was a priest at Auburn for a year before I came here. My best friend is now the current chaplain
When
at
you were
Auburn
also
University.
with Focus?
I was Focus missionary for 4 years before seminary, and work at the high school here with high school students. I think it was interesting. I was talking to my friend who's the Father Peyton Plessel, is the chaplain at Auburn University now down the road, and he was giving a talk to the CYO the other day, his youth group, Catholic Youth Organization, yeah. And so he's talking about, especially with men, right? Like, doing the harder thing, finding something to excel in, like to be the best you can be in your life, and to reach for something like extraordinary. And he said that the students, like, afterwards, like, straight up to his face told him, like, I don't really want to do anything with my life. Like, I'm happy where I am.
There's
like,
just like a malaise.
Yeah, he said, but they were like, honest. They're like, we're happy. We don't want to do anything else. And he's like, what, like, what do you do with that? There's not even like an aspiration for anything else. Yeah. Because, and so I think what you sort of see is, we've created an atmosphere, in which you don't have to do anything. You don't, you can sit at home and you can play video games all day.
Not my house, brother.
Well, no, yeah. We're not talking about your house. We're talking about, in general, right? You can sit at home, you can play video games all day. You can order what you want on Amazon. You can have things brought to you, food, right? You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. I don't know that we've ever had a time in the history of the human race where that's been the case.
Just because of affluence, you mean?
Yes. I think in the West today, we're in a new situation, really. Like, Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. This is new, I think. Maybe back in the days of Solomon, like if you were the prince and you grew up like sheltered in the palace or something, but everybody's like that now.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do? And I think the spirit behind, the worst of the United States of America, I would say, is it's like a spirit of like self-reliance. Like, I don't need anyone else.
That's an older, that was my generation, my dad's generation. We have the freedom to achieve, but now it's take care of me as the primary value.
Yeah.
I would argue it's a spirit of effeminacy of this. So effeminacy is not feminine, but rather this lack of desire or lack of ability or lack of willingness to do what needs to be done, to do the harder thing, right? And I think I've heard people talk about this. I think what we're looking at is probably coming out of pornography, is the prevalence of pornography, because it kills the male. It kills his drive. It makes him physically, emotionally, spiritually sick, immature. You can pretty much tell if somebody's got a porn addiction by their immaturity or trauma. They kind of get stuck in this adolescence where they are, and it's a real sickening of the culture. And I think it's been targeting our male men for a long time, and then it destroys the family. It destroys relationships. People don't want to get married anymore.
Right.
They don't even really kind of even want to live together. If they do, they're not all that interested in sex. That's the other thing we're finding out. I mean, it's a really,
Right.
really sick culture where everybody's just kind of asleep and effeminate and passive, and that's terrible, because what's happened is if you go after the family, then there's no children, and if there's no children, there's no priests. If there's no priests, there's no Eucharist. So we need to really understand that this is a demonic attack on families and on the drive of men to seek their wives, to procreate, to build a life, to build society. Men have no purpose anymore.
But the question is for you guys, how do you get there from here? I mean, obviously you can speak the truth, but how do you motivate? How do we reach young men and get them moving on this right path?
Yeah, I think we have to challenge them. They're not being challenged right now.
Yeah.
And I think in his heart of hearts, men need to be challenged. And I think what you said was important. What pornography does, it destroys the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in Hebrew, the heart is leb. And in Hebrew understanding, different parts of the body serve different spiritual functions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the heart is the place where your desire for God lives in you. Pornography kills that.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is revive the heart of man, revive that heart of men to get them empowered, inspired to move forward. And one of the ways is you challenge them, because they're not being challenged. But I think deep down inside, they want to be challenged.
Sure, they do. Yeah.
Because that's just the very nature of who we are. Yeah. So you just have to tap into that and stir those coals into flame in the hearts of our youth.
It reminds me of the story you told to the high schoolers the other day when you said you got that B+.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he was saying, like first high school grade gets a B+, like got, he's giving everybody his test, put it down on the piece of what he said you like turn it over.
Yeah. So I turned it's my 14 years old. My first grade in high school was this history test, Mr. Frank Mullen. So I turned Mr. Mullen would walk up and down the desk and turn your paper over, keep walking. So I turned my paper, I said B+, and I audibly said, yes. And Mr. Mullen stopped walking and he backed up and he looked at me and he goes, and you're happy with that? I'm looking at him like, yeah. I'm thinking I got B+, not a bad way to start, and I was so proud. I went home and showed Mom. I said, Mommy, look, I got my first test in high school. I got a B+. I told him Mr. Mullen said, he goes, no, son, you don't understand. What he's saying is you could do better than that.
Mm.
It sparked something in me.
Not
I
to
said,
settle.
he said you could do better. He saw something in me. I didn't even see it myself. So I said, what if I worked a little harder? What if I went after school and got some tutoring? What if and it just awakened something in me. And then from that on, I just pushed forward. I just became the first person in my family, had an academic scholarship to college. So it was because of my mom and because of people that pushed me and challenged me.
But I think it's someone like that, right? Is like the solution, right? You have men who, and maybe, like you said, there's lots of young men out there who don't have male role models or positive ones, right? But they have guys in their church, they have guys like in their community, and you can take that as part of your fatherhood. Like I don't have my own biological kids, but I have kids.
Yeah.
And I can take that responsibility on them to do what Mr. Mullen did, right? And to say like, look, I love you.
Yeah.
And you're great, but you can do better.
Well, no, it can even be even simpler stuff, like, I don't know, we travel lots. We're not at our own parish a lot on Sundays, but we were on Sunday a little while back, and I saw all these little new altar servers you have, and I went encouraged every single one of them and just told them, "You're awesome, proud of you for what you're doing or whatever." So they are seen by somebody, because when you're seen by somebody outside of your family, that has because you just sort of expect your family to encourage you. That has a big effect in saying you're doing great. And then eventually, if I see him again, I'll see him 4, 5, 7, 10 times. Say, you ever thought about being a priest? Oh, I could be a priest. You give them the vision for that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm the educator at the table, the teacher in my background. I think kids need goals. Yeah. They need stuff to work towards, like the A, like the better grades, like the challenge or whatever. The other thing is boys, in particular, men, boys need to be active. We have a very passive culture where everybody's sitting and we're very passive. Men need to be running. They need to be challenging. They need to be working. They need to be challenging their bodies, which challenges their heart and their mind. They need dragons to slay. Yeah. Guys need dragons to slay.
They need risk. They need adventure. I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the things that saved me when I was a kid is my dad taking me to Alaska or going up in the mountain. My dad was a manly guy. And those were the best times for me. The home was not good. But when I could escape out in the wilderness and do things that are risky, guys got to do that. And the feminization of the culture is moms want to protect kids from risk as a natural thing. And dads need to have the freedom, especially at a certain age when they're big enough to go get, roughed up and go get, go have some adventure. We're already out of time, and I wish we weren't, because it's such an important topic. Behold the Man, A Catholic Vision of Male Spirituality is the book by Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Recommend anything and everything he does. It's all going to be good. It's all going to bless you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, until next time, may the God of peace make you perfect in holiness. May he preserve you whole and entire, spirit, soul, and body, irreproachable at the coming of our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Learn more about the interior life. Visit spiritualdirection.com. Divine Intimacy Radio is a co-production of EWTN Radio and spiritualdirection.com and heard worldwide on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.